Welcome, everybody, to Down the Middle with a surprise episode because Survivor Series was not your run of the mill premium live event.
Wow. That's all I got to say.
It was simultaneously exactly what we thought, like what we expected, and still a surprise. And all I got to say is AEW is screwed now. Not that they're going to go out of business screwed, but like they made the wrong choice, clearly. Just like we said. Jack Perry, who I would like to remind everyone hasn't been on television.
Still. And you know what? Who's probably even more mad than AEW?
Who?
Ryback.
Oh, I saw something on Twitter where he said that if Punk comes back to wrestling, that he was going to retire. But then after Punk came back, he said, I meant back to AEW. So.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, we, as you said, we don't have a lot of time. So we're going to breeze through this card real quick because thankfully, this was a manageable pay-per-view. It wasn't too long. Everything flowed really well. There wasn't a bad match on the card. And my conspiracy theory is I think this was a giant middle finger to AEW because you'll notice literally every match on this card had a story going into it, told a story for everyone in the ring, and then continues the story afterward.
Yep.
And then with the return of R-Truth, it was just a giant middle finger to...
It was like, I can't believe how well hidden he was. He was just in plain sight.
Well, okay, so here's the funny thing, though, because I saw... And I to be fair, I think it was Dave Meltzer rolling back something he said. But basically on the Wrestling Observer, I believe it was, somebody said something that's like, nobody knew that Punk was there. I was like, dude, the audience knew Punk was there. There were CM Punk chants throughout the whole night. Come on. Everybody knew. And that business with Rollins being mad or whatever. Listen, guys, WWE released that footage too.
That's something I can't recall now.
Duh. Guarantee you, Monday Night Raw, which is going to do a killer number.
I guarantee
it. The only they had Punk come in at the tail end of that because they didn't have a story for him going in, but they know Raw is going to do a crazy rating. It's going to be insane. But I guarantee you Punk's going to start cutting a promo and he's going to be interrupted by Seth Rollins. And then, holy smokes, we have something going into the next premium live event. It's almost like this has been done before.
Or it's almost like WWE knows what they're doing. It's like they know how to make storylines and make it make sense.
Well, again, because let's be real. About 2 years ago, we were having the opposite conversation. So, yes. To be fair. So, anyway, the first match, which...
They just wasn't doing a very good job at it.
Well, and then another thing I want to mention real quick before we get to the card. One thing that a lot of people, I don't think, or at least I haven't seen, people are considering is they're like, oh, I can't believe that, WWE and CM Punk buried the hatchet. Remember, WWE is owned by Endeavor now, and Punk always had a really good relationship with Dana White and UFC despite his record. Because he made Dana White a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money for losing him.
Hey, it drew pay-per-view buys.
That's true.
Okay, so anyway, the first match, which honestly was the perfect place for it, you'll notice too that this pay-per-view starts with War Games and ends with War Games. So, and this was only 5 matches.
Wasn't very big. Wasn't very long.
But, every match was allowed to breathe. As AEW would have had a 10-match card, including the pre-show.
Which was 3 matches.
See, I don't even have the pre-show for this one. But
They don't. I don't think they're really doing any pre-shows anymore.
well, why bother? You don't have to convince somebody to buy the pay-per-view for a WWE live event. But anyway, I digress. So we had the Women's War Games match consisting of Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Shotzi, and Becky Lynch, essentially the A-listers of the women's division right now, versus Damage Control, which now I guess includes Kairi Sane, who saw that coming, and Asuka. Yes, that was the other. Yeah. Honestly, there was only I'll bet you money when Jim Cornette does his review. I'm not saying it was a bad spot, but I just couldn't help the imagery. The spot where Io Sky puts the trash can over herself and then jumps off the top. Jim Cornette is going to say something to the effect of it's like something along the lines of it's like, well, Io knew she was doing a garbage spot, so she just put the icing on the cake by putting herself in a literal fucking trash can. I'm not hating on the spot because I actually thought it made sense for the moment, but I just know the imagery was too funny to pass up. But yeah, I mean everything about this match, nothing bad, nothing really phony or folky or nothing terrible. Like
It was a straight up match. Everything flowed, everything made sense. The whole storyline progress between all of them. I still think in the long run, I think Bayley's gonna be the oddball out. Bayley's always been the oddball of the group. I think Bayley's gonna be the one that's gonna leave Damage Control.
More than likely, either that or she's going to betray Io Sky. I think it depends on how the cards fall. But yeah, I agree with that sentiment. And then you're going to have Io, Asuka, and Kairi form a very racist stable. But we'll see. Do what?
Dakota Kai's in there too.
She's going to get, and I'm not saying she should be thrown to the side, but she'll probably get, I don't know. You know, they're all good. So... yeah, I just. But by the way, the A-listers won, so that was Bianca, Charlotte, Shotzi, and Becky. But again, going with the theme of the night, so they acknowledged the animosity between Becky and Charlotte, and they sort of buried the hatchet at least for that match. They had a moment for that. They acknowledged Kairi Sane not being 100% in sync with Bayley, but again, they were for the match. War Games is an interesting concept because matches like these, alliances are necessary, so it's good that they address it because in some Survivor Series of years past, sometimes they acknowledge it, sometimes they kind of play nice for the night, but they don't really incorporate it into the story, so it was nice to see that here. Yeah. And then the next match, I only would have changed one thing, and it wasn't during the match, it was after. It was Gunther defending the IC title against The Miz. This match was purely to make The Miz look good, and it succeeded. And I couldn't believe it. Miz worked a body part for the entire match.
That he did.
Oh my God! He worked the knee the entire match, and Gunther sold it the entire match. Even after, it's almost like these guys are actually in a fight. My brain was melting.
My brain's still trying to comprehend it.
Oh my God! It was, and when the Miz hit him, it looked like it actually hurt, and vice versa. And nobody did a flip, and the place still was cheering.
Like this was meant to be. It's like it was supposed to be.
It was almost like it was supposed to be a fight. Oh my God!
I thought I was watching a soap opera.
I mean, the only thing I would have changed, because Gunther started to kind of, because it was obvious to me, this match is to put Miz over without losing the IC title, which, oh my God, everybody came out of that match a winner. Gunther still has the IC title, and Miz looks like a legitimate wrestler, which it's a shame that he has to go through these kinds of things to remind people how good he is. Yeah. But the only thing I would have liked is for Gunther to have because Miz was selling it. Miz was selling that he tapped. And I love how he was holding it together, and then Gunther put his knee into the small of his back, and then it was instant. Like, I loved that spot. It was so good. Miz is selling it like he's actually hurt. I would have just liked for Gunther to have given him a little handshake there. Like, not necessarily we're friends, but like respect, kind of like Jeff Hardy and The Undertaker, sort of the aftermath of that match. Less of a good job, young buck, and more like a, hey, man, because I thought they were going there because the commentators kept saying Gunther is not expecting this.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll do something on Monday, but I think that would have been the only thing I would have changed. I would have just given him that little moment to be like, you know what, Miz, you got it.
Going back and thinking about it, I actually agree with you.
Because I don't know what they're going to do with Miz, but they're going to do something because they've kind of been reminding you about him. And the other thing too, guess who's going to start watching WWE television more often? Not just for Punk. Because I'm now engaged. Everybody who was on that pay-per-view card, I am now engaged in their stories again. And I'm like, okay, I need to get back on this. By the way, I'll deal with the sponsor at the end, but this podcast is brought to you by the Part of Your Broadway World podcast. I'll touch on them at the end because I know you'll probably have to go. But the next match, another match I didn't think I was going to love, Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee. I like that Escobar is wrestling like a Lucha Libre heel. He's not doing a ton of lucha moves, and Dragon Lee is. And that is Lucha Libre psychology, at least in the United States. It's from what I've seen of Lucha Libre from Mexico or even in Lucha Underground. It's a little different, but as far as Lucha Libre here in WWE, that's how you wrestle as a heel if you're a luchador. You don't do lucha moves.
Exactly. Originally, it was supposed to be Carlito, and then obviously they did the whole story with the Carlito getting hurt, so Dragon Lee took the spot. And, it worked perfect for Dragon Lee because if you're going to bring in somebody new to the main roster, and he's good enough tango, why not just throw him in with the other crowd and see how good he does in front of a couple thousand people instead of 1,000, 2,000 people, 5,000 people that do on NXT.
Well, Dragon Lee is no stranger to big crowds. He did several Wrestle Kingdoms, and I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that he's done several big New Japan events, including Wrestle Kingdom, and then I also know he's probably done some Arena Mexico shows when he was wrestling in Mexico. But yeah, to get him on a WWE pay-per-view, I mean, Dragon Lee's good, minus that one time he almost killed Takahashi.
I don't remember that, but okay.
I'll never forget that spot. I talked about it when Benji was still doing the show. I mentioned that spot because I saw it happen and I was like, oh, there's no way he's not hurt. And sure enough, it was a miracle he was still alive, but it's also a miracle that he's still walking because the way he landed and all that. You can go find the video on the channel. You can search under Dragon Lee, you'll find it. But yeah, it was a great match, and Santos Escobar won, which needed to happen, but Dragon Lee had a great showing. No complaints. It was good. I mean, this is an example of, you saw this coming a mile away with Escobar, double crossing Rey Mysterio. And yet it's still working because it's almost like these storylines make sense. Let's see and next we had Rhea Ripley defending her title against Zoe Stark, which I don't mean this disparagingly, but this was a placeholder match. They needed Rhea Ripley to wrestle someone. Not taking any away from Zoe because I've been very impressed with her, but there was no way that Rhea Ripley was losing to Zoe Stark, although it was a well-crafted match and Zoe took it to her. So I've got nothing bad to say about it.
I'm going to be honest. I was busy at the time of this match, So I didn't see any of this match. Like I came literally right at the end, like as soon as the men started. So I don't know anything about this match.
I mean, it was good. It was. This sounds worse than I mean. It was fine. Like there was nothing. I'm not talking about in ring, but like as far as the story they were telling, it was clean cut, concise. It was the equivalent of a filler episode, but a good one. You know, one that was fun. Because Rhea retained. And then that leads us into the main event, which was the men's War Games match where we had Cody Rhodes, Seth Franklin Rollins, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and Randy Orton. Now, I don't know how I felt about the whole, like, will he be here sort of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it, but I didn't, you know.
Well, I don't know. They seemed to book it like he was going to be there guaranteed, and then the day of, they're like, well, I don't know if he's going to be here.
The only thing I can think of is maybe they were trying, because WWE's become very good at this. Everybody, well, not everybody knew, but a lot of people thought CM Punk was going to be there, so maybe they were trying to make people think that it would be Punk instead of Randy, just to play with people a bit. I don't know. And then when Randy showed up, they might have been like, oh, maybe Punk's not going to be here, and then they got the final surprise. That's the only thing I can come up with, other than the fact that Randy Orton's back and it's a big deal. Which, by the way, no homo, but Randy Orton was jacked.
Oh my God! I mean, the other guys that were watching it, we said the same thing. We seen that, we're like, Jesus Christ!
I was like, damn, Randy. Like, don't get me wrong, Randy's always been, Randy's always been pretty chiseled, but I was like, he had some. Was it like he was bigger, right? That wasn't just in my head.
No, he's bigger.
Yeah.
And then, to be honest, CM Punk looked a little healthier too coming out.
A little bit. I don't know what they're giving him at that PC, but I got it. And then I loved how Jade Cargill posted a picture of her and Punk talking shortly after he was revealed on the pay-per-view. I thought that was funny. But as far as... Oh, go ahead.
One last thing for me before I got to head out. After the at the post conference after the show, somebody brought up and asked about Jade Cargill and why we've only seen her on TV like once or twice. And in short term of what he said, he basically said that she's still green, that they didn't train her the way she should have been trained, and that she's not ready for TV yet. That he does not want to send her into this style of wrestling not being prepared for how they do it.
Exactly. He doesn't want to set her up to fail, which should have...
Exactly what we've been saying.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a surprise. We have eyes, but yeah, I know you got a roll, but any thoughts on that match other than the fact that it was pretty damn good?
I mean, it was everything it was supposed to be.
That's, yeah, and that sounds like a bad thing, but it wasn't, because I like the thread they had. I love the moment where Randy looked like he was going to RKO Jay, and then he just did this, but then Jay saved him from getting tackled. It was so good because it acknowledges... Yeah, and Jay's doing this whole redemption arc, which is awesome, because everybody's like, hey, I remember what you did to me.
Yeah.
And it's setting it up, man. So I think I'm right in my prediction. I think Jey Uso is going to be instrumental in Cody winning that belt.
I think so too. I really do.
And I'm totally okay with it.
Like I really think so. And how about JD getting thrown off the top of the cage?
Loved it.
To Randy doing an RKO.
And then they teased Damian Priest cashing in again, and Randy foiled it.
I honestly, I didn't. That's something that caught my eye. Like I didn't expect it.
Well, and they had that narrative thread woven in too, because what was it? Damian said something effective. It was like, just remember the plan, the real plan, blah 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 blah. So he was planning to cash in. So they didn't leave any loose ends. They didn't leave anything unexplained or hanging out there. and everybody looked good. Everybody got their moment. You know, Cody got to do the homage to his dad because Dusty created War Games and he had the whole belt. And then he and Seth had that moment where it's like the one night thing, which I think I said this already, but all the people that are saying that Seth Rollins was actually mad that Punk is back, it's like, come on. I did say that at the beginning.
I'm not saying he is mad. I'm not saying there's not a little bit of a sour taste, but at the end of the day, it's all what's best for business.
Well, you know what can take care of a sour taste real quick? An extra 0 on the left side of that decimal point in your paycheck.
I would love it.
Yeah, so I'll work with CM. I will, if you pay me enough, I will let CM Punk punch me in the face every single day.
In the face,
if there's enough zeros. But eventually he's going to get tired and just be like, do you really want this? I'm like, no, actually, I'd really like to, not do this. But if we could just get paid to hang out, that'd be significantly better, but.
Let's go drink. Oh.
No, water, bro. Water. Oh, Matt Riddle put on Twitter something about Punk coming back and a bunch of people were commenting on him. It's like, at least he can stay sober.
Oh, that's so screwed.
Twitter's a terrible place. I still maintain Twitter is awful. Twitter is the dumpster of the human race, and I just don't like it. Well, buddy, we will wrap it up because I know you only have like 2 minutes, but any final thoughts on that? And then as you leave, I'll tell people about the sponsor, and then we'll get out of here.
No, I have no final thoughts. Like, it was out of 10. I'd give it a solid. I'd give it a solid 7.
Oh, really? I was gonna say like 8 or 8.5, and only because like.
The only reason why I say that is because like the matches wasn't like, oh wow.
Yeah, that's just it.
But the only wow factors that were really there was the CM Punk. Like we knew Randy was going to be there.
Yeah, and R-Truth, as much as we like to kid, I mean, it's not. I like R-Truth being on the TV, but it's not a channel turner, I guess. But I'd say that's why it's 8.
Maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say 8.5, just because it's just like you said. It was technically there was nothing wrong with it, but there was no. Like, it wasn't Rock versus Hogan. It wasn't Rock versus Austin. It wasn't Punk versus Cena at Money in the Bank. There was no moment that was like, oh my God, except Punk coming back, which everybody kind of half expected. But yeah, so that was Survivor Series War Games.
War Games.
All right, buddy, take it easy. I will tell everybody about the sponsor, and then we will get on out of here.
See ya, y'all.
Later. All right, everybody, now that we're alone, at any time during this podcast, did your girlfriend, wife, significant other try to stop you from enjoying the awesomeness that is down the middle? Well, I've got a solution for you. Tell them about the Part of Your Broadway World podcast, and then they can watch, your girlfriend or wife can watch that while you watch Down the Middle or your wrestling. And I mean, it's Disney and Broadway, so I guess it would technically work for boyfriends too, depending upon your sexual persuasion. No judgment here. Hey, well, you do you. But Part of Your Broadway World podcast, part of the Arte Podcast Network, and we are pleased to welcome, a little announcement, we are pleased to welcome the Goosebumps crew to the Arte Podcast Network. They just joined up. They did their first episode on YouTube last week, and it will be up on the website shortly, as well as other exciting podcasts that are coming your way soon. And for all you, for all you tabletop gamers out there, we are looking for Dungeons and Dragons players to take part in our live Dungeons and Dragons podcast, where we are essentially going to show a campaign play out, but not just the normal way you think. We are going to have actors for NPCs, full makeup and everything. The Dungeon Master is a professional actor, and the winners, I should say, those that survive the campaign split the grand prize of $5,000. If all of you survive, you split it amongst yourselves. If there's only one survivor, you get all $5,000. So be wary of backstabbing. But we need people who can commit to playing Dungeons and Dragons with the chance to win $5,000. So if you do, reach out to me, Jake at artemedia.org. That's JAKE at ARETE media.org. Let me know, and I will send your details to Virus Vox, the gentleman who was orchestrating the game. Hopefully, we will see you there. This has been Down the Middle. Hope you guys had fun. I know this was a little short one, but we couldn't not talk about Survivor Series. So, hope you enjoyed that too, and you will see us, not this coming Sunday, but the next Sunday back to our regular schedule with some more wrestling. I don't know why I did the Al Borland thing. That was weird. Now it's even weirder because I'm talking about it. There's no way out of it, is there? That was a mistake.